Ready to start your journey into Dolby Atmos and immersive audio? There are some key facts you need to know before or even if you have already started. Let's look at this together. Greetings, I am Pat, and I have been mixing and producing in Atmos for major and indie labels and artists for a few years now, and today I want to share with you some key facts, some foundations that you absolutely need to have under your belt to work in immersive audio. And if you stay till the end, I'll give you a tip that will not only make you a happy camper, but will also save you quite a bit of money too. So let's do this. You might consider some of these simple or common sense, but stay with me here. These are all very important. Before you spend time or a dime on an Atmos setup, and for sure before diving into producing or mixing for immersive, it's crucial to grasp the fundamental differences between traditional stereo and Dolby Atmos. Dolby Atmos is an object-based audio format, meaning it allows us to treat individual sounds as separate entities that can be precisely placed in a three-dimensional space. There are two kinds of these objects. The bed, which are really fixed position objects, meaning objects coming out of a particular speaker, and these represent the foundational layer of the song, and objects. More like free objects, I would call them, meaning these do not have a fixed position and they can be placed anywhere in the 3D sound field. More on this in a second. We need to grasp this concept and how this contrasts with traditional production and mixing, where sounds are typically confined to the space between the left and right speakers, or maybe a bit outside the speakers, also that depth that we achieve with reverb and all that. But basically that space that you have between left and right. In Atmos, we have the 3D space to work with. It's a whole different ballgame. Back to bed tracks. So, bed tracks are essentially the foundational layers of a Dolby Atmos mix. Think of them as the main background sounds that provide a solid base for the music. As I've mentioned, they typically use fixed speaker locations around the listener, including front, sides, rear, and LFE low frequency effects, and the top speakers. Let's look at some characteristics of bed tracks. They are channel-based, meaning they are positioned to specific channels rather than being individually placed in space. Bed tracks usually include multiple sounds that are panned across these channels to create a cohesive sound environment. In a typical Atmos music mix, you'll often find just one bed track that combines various elements like instruments and vocals. Object tracks, on the other hand, offer more flexibility and creativity in how sounds are positioned. Instead of being limited to fixed channels equals speakers, object tracks allow individual sounds to be placed anywhere in the 3D space. Let's look at some characteristics of object tracks. Each object can be moved freely around the listener, creating a more immersive experience. You can have many object tracks, up to 118 mono or 59 stereo objects, allowing for detailed placement of specific sounds, like a solo instrument or a sound effect. Things that need to stand out. While using object tracks can enhance the spatial quality of the mix, it's often recommended to limit their number to avoid cluttering the sound. Tons of experimentation is in order for this one, but these are best practices that can help. In summary, bed tracks serve as the core foundation of the Dolby Atmos mix, while object tracks provide additional flexibility for placing individual sounds in a three-dimensional space. This combination allows us to create rich and engaging immersive listening experiences. Now that you got this, you need to make sure you have the appropriate tools. You need specific tools and a proper setup. So you have two options here. An external piece of software by Dolby called the Dolby Atmos Renderer, which you can purchase, and a licensed and branded version of that in various DAWs like Logic Pro, Pro Tools, Cubase, and Studio One, built-in support for Atmos music creation and mixing. The renderer software manages all that immersive audio processing. Of course, there are built-in Atmos panners in the compatible DAWs we mentioned, so you can really do this entire Atmos thing just by using your compatible DAW of choice. And I mean entire, from conception to delivery. You can produce a file that can be sent to your label or distributor for distribution to streaming platforms that support Atmos, which at the time of this video is Apple Music, Amazon Music HD, Tidal, and a few others across the globe, with more being added. But how do you listen to all this? Well, you need three things besides your computer and the software, of course. 1. An audio interface with enough ins and outs to accommodate Atmos. Many different options out there for all kinds of budgets, but what you need is at least 16 channels in and out. Make sure you budget for some cabling as well. 2. A speaker setup of at least 7 speakers for the floor, 1 sub, and for the heights. All right, but you need to have some understanding of room acoustics and placement and calibration of speakers to be able to understand monitoring for Atmos. And you need to have an idea of what is binaural audio to understand how you can listen to a multi-channel, multi-object format in just a pair of headphones. As my 5-year-old daughter says, easy peasy mac and cheesy. Watch me carefully, we'll be done in a second. Speakers first. Nice rectangular room, not square if you can. Speakers just a little bit off the wall where you can. As much absorption as you can in the room. Couch with pillows at the back versus a full wall mirror, if you're catching my drift. If you can afford to invest in some absorbers and some bass straps for the corners, even better. Tons of info online and on YouTube on how and where to put this. A room is at least 50% of your result, so I would get cheaper gear and invest more in the room itself. Get the best speakers you can afford. Research Dolby Atmos setups. Get the speaker manufacturer's recommendations for an Atmos setup, most likely included in the manual, and just follow instructions to position them. Then test and calibrate. And 3, some sort of monitor controller that will let you control all these. Again, many options on this one, but stick around for a killer tip at the end of the video. That's it for a speaker-based rig. But can't I do this with headphones, you ask? You said I can. Yes, you can. At least up to a certain level. Let me explain. We need to know what binaural audio is and how that applies to Atmos. It'll take us just a second. 2 things. First, binaural audio is sound recorded or processed in a way that mimics how human ears perceive sound. This technique really uses 2 microphones placed in a way that simulates the position of human ears, capturing sound from different directions. You've seen the Neumann blackhead microphone thing. That's a binaural microphone. Second, very, very smart people writing algorithms that fool our brains. Simple, huh? By the way, we can get YouTube's algorithm fooled to show this video to more people if you kindly hit that like button below. Thank you. Okay, remember our bed and objects? To monitor these in a mix, in headphones, a process called binaural rendering is used. This converts the 3D audio information into a format suitable for headphones. The Dolby Atmos renderer, the external app, or the one built in your DAW, applies algorithms that simulate how sounds would reach our ears from various angles, accounting for factors like head movement and head, shoulders, and ear shape, using fancy techniques like head tracking and head-related transfer function, or HRTF. I'm sure you've seen those terms flying around on your devices or online. And voila! You have a simulation in your headphones of how something would sound in a 3D space. Is it the same as listening to speakers in a room? Not quite, but it'll get you where you want to be, making music in Atmos. Another important thing is understanding some audio in space rules, let's just say. Simple stuff. Nothing that you have not experienced in real life, but maybe have not paid attention to it. Until now, that is. 3 main things for now. First, sounds coming from the back and when further away are darker, meaning they have less treble, less high frequencies, right? They are also lower in level. If someone claps right in front of your face, how does that sound? Bright, loud, right? If they clap behind you and further back in the room, less bright, less loud. Second, there's not that much stuff happening up top. Humans are relatively less prone to perceiving sounds coming from up high, so by all means experiment, but I wouldn't put a song's main part up there. And third, things sound bigger and wider, more immersive when they are not the same. 10 channels all around you of an acoustic guitar does not give you an amazing immersive guitar. It gives you an annoyingly loud mono guitar. Remember that we talked about controllers? Boy, do some of these cost a lot, especially if they can do room treatment, speaker correction, and all that jazz. Even the more affordable ones are not that affordable. But don't I have a treat for you? You don't really need them. Grab Ginger Audio Sphere. Yes, I've worked with these guys in the past, but this is not a sponsored video. This thing does everything you would ever need, and it is realistically priced software, not expensive hardware. There, just saved you a few thousand. Which reminds me, we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not already, please subscribe by hitting that subscribe button below that's just got illuminated so nicely by the nice YouTube folks. Thank you. Atmos is a trip. The first 80% is so easy and happens relatively fast. Yes, the rest 20% is intense, but an even more exciting journey. So I'm not going to spoil it and rob you of the chance to experience it. But what I will do is point you to these 4 incredible Atmos mixes for some intense immersive inspiration.